She was in her wedding dress when he called to cancel. And what he said next, what she did next, nobody saw coming. Stay with me. Her name is Jane, 26 years old, event coordinator by day, dreamer by night. For the past 3 years, she has been planning the most important event of her entire career, her own wedding. The venue, a garden estate with ivy-covered walls and white roses. The menu, hand-selected, tasted twice, debated over once. The dress, fitted 4 times, adjusted twice, and cried over once. The good kind of crying, the kind that happens when something is finally exactly right. The groom, Hector, 30 years old, architect, the kind of man who remembered the anniversary of their first date and forgot where his keys were every single morning. She loved that about him. She loved everything about him. On the morning before her wedding, Jane stands in the bridal suite in front of a full-length mirror. Her best friend Maya is behind her, fastening the last button at the back of the gown. Maya says she is not going to cry. She is absolutely not going to cry. She is crying. Jane threatens to uninvite her from every event she will ever plan for the rest of her life. Maya says that is a bluff, and they both know it. She says Jane looks like a painting, like something out of a story. Jane looks at herself in the mirror, really looks, and she smiles. Not the practiced smile of a woman who has managed difficult clients for years. The kind that comes from the stomach, the kind you can't manufacture. We did it, didn't we? We actually did it. And then the phone rings. Now, before you hear what happens next, I need you to watch her face. Not her voice, her face. Because Jane is trained to keep her voice steady. Years of managing impossible clients will do that to a person. She can tell you the flowers are wrong, and the caterer is late, and the mother of the bride is having a complete breakdown, all with a smile in her voice. But she cannot control her face, not when it is him. She answers. She says, "Hey." She says he is supposed to be at the rehearsal dinner setup right now. A pause, longer than it should be. He says he needs to talk to her. Not on the phone. Can she come to him? She asks what is going on. She says he is scaring her. Another pause. And then a sound in the background. A woman's voice, distant but distinct, saying his name. Jane hears it. Her smile does not disappear. It freezes. She asks who that is. And Hector says, quietly, "Jane, I can't marry you. Not this week." 4 words. Not this week. Not, "I don't love you." Not, "It's over." Not even a complete, honest sentence. 4 words delivered in the voice of a man who is already somewhere else. And Jane, who spent a year building the most perfect day of her life, does the thing that will haunt her for weeks afterward. She says, "Okay, just that. Okay." And she hangs up. Maya watches her best friend standing in the middle of the bridal suite, phone in hand, face absolutely still. Jane says she has to go see him. She drives to his apartment still in the dress. Hold that image for just a moment. A woman in a wedding gown, alone in a car, moving through Saturday morning traffic. People glance at her at red lights. A little girl waves from a stroller. Jane waves back. Her brain has not yet caught up to what is happening. When she gets to his building, she takes the stairs. All 4 flights, in heels. She does not know why she takes the stairs. She will think about that later. She knocks. He opens the door. For a moment they just look at each other. He is still dressed. He has not slept. He looks like a man who has been rehearsing something for hours and realized, only now, that none of it is going to sound right. And on the couch behind him sits a woman. She is beautiful. Not in a showy way. In the quiet, specific way of someone who has been beautiful for so long, they have stopped thinking about it. Her hands are folded in her lap. She's looking directly at Jane. Her name is Diana. Jane has heard that name exactly once. 3 years ago, on a second date with Hector, when he said, unprompted, "There was someone before. It ended badly. I don't talk about her." And Jane, who was falling for him and did not want to ruin anything, said, "You don't have to." She wishes right now that she had asked more questions. Hector tells her to come in. He says he will explain everything. Jane tells him he already started explaining on the phone. She is in a wedding dress. She is not sitting down until he tells her what is happening in that apartment. He looks at Diana. Diana gives a small nod. He tells her, Diana has cancer. Stage 3. She was diagnosed 8 months ago. She came back because she has one wish, one thing she wants before she cannot want anything anymore. Jane asks, flat, quiet, what wish? He cannot say it. So Diana says it for him. She wants to marry him. She knows how it sounds. She knows what she is asking. She says she is deeply, genuinely sorry. But she's running out of time, and Hector was her first love. Jane says, stop. Then she turns to Hector. You're letting her ask me that? Hector says, she's dying, Jane. And Jane says something that cuts straight through everything. So am I. So are you. So is everyone. That doesn't mean we get to take things that belong to other people. He tells her Diana is running out of time, that Jane has her whole life ahead of her. She tells him not to finish that sentence. She looks at him, really looks, searching for any crack, any hesitation, anything that would tell her this is a nightmare or a test or a terrible joke. But Hector just looks back at her, sad, certain, already halfway gone. She says quietly, you don't have a heart. No woman can stand by and watch her fiancé marry someone else. And he says, and this is the cruelest thing he has ever said to her, and he means it as kindness. Then don't love me. Don't love me. Jane picks up her handbag. She puts her hand on the doorknob. Diana says her name. Jane does not turn around. Don't. She leaves. Here is what she does not do. She does not cry in the hallway. She does not call her mother or her sister or any of the 4 bridesmaids waiting at the venue. She does not sit on the stairs or bang on the door or do any of the things that every fiber of her body is screaming at her to do. She walks to her car. She sits in the driver's seat. She looks at the steering wheel for a very long time. Then she picks up her phone, in her event planner voice, the one that stays smooth even when everything is on fire. And she calls the venue coordinator. This is Jane. I need to put a temporary hold on all the vendors for tomorrow. Don't cancel. Don't release the bookings. Just hold. She does not know why she says hold instead of cancel. That word will matter later. She drives home. She sits on the kitchen floor in the wedding dress. The skirt fans out around her like a fallen cloud. She stares at the ceiling, and she thinks, there has to be something I can do. Not to save the wedding, to save herself. That night, unable to sleep, Jane goes online. She types, how to get over someone you still love. She types, how to stop loving someone fast. She types, how to make yourself not feel this. And then, because algorithms are merciless, she sees an ad. Clean white letters on a dark background. Tabula rasa memory clinic. Forget the person you love most in 7 days. Guaranteed. She stares at it for a long time. She does not click it. Not yet. She closes the laptop. She goes to the window and looks out at the city. She thinks about him, whether he is asleep or awake, and she does not know which possibility hurts more. Then she goes back. And she clicks. Maya arrives the next morning with jollof rice, chin-chin, and the energy of a woman who has already made up her mind about the entire situation and is prepared to argue it indefinitely. She says she told Jane 2 years ago. when Hector still had Diana's photograph saved in his phone gallery under, and she makes the air quotes, old friends. Jane says she did not tell her that. Maya says she mentioned it. Jane says mentioning and telling are different things. Maya says she heavily implied it. Eventually Maya drops the performance and asks how Jane is actually doing. Jane says she thinks she is fine, which probably means she is not. Then she turns the laptop around and shows Maya the Memory Clinic website. She explains it calmly. Legal, medically supervised, 7 sessions across 7 days. A combination of targeted therapy and neurological conditioning. They call it softening, like erasing a whiteboard, slowly. The memories do not disappear. The feelings attached to them go quiet. Maya stares at her and says, "You want to erase Hector from your brain." Jane says, "I want to stop carrying him. There's a difference." Maya says she just needs time, and Jane says, "He's marrying her tomorrow. In my dress, Maya, at my venue, with my flowers." He called the venue that morning. The new bride is coming in for a fitting that afternoon. They want to use Jane's measurements on file. They ask Jane to come. Maya tells her she is absolutely not going. Jane picks up her keys. "Oh, I'm going." The venue is somewhere Jane has been 47 times. She counted. She knows which floorboards creak, which bathroom has the best lighting, where the caterers stage their equipment. She has been there 47 times. She has never walked in as a guest, always as the bride. The security guard at the entrance, a young man named Festus, who has told Jane on 3 separate occasions that she has wedding energy, looks at her with an expression she cannot read and says only, "They're in the fitting room, Ma." Jane goes in. Diana is standing on the fitting platform, in Jane's dress. The seamstress, Auntie Grace, who has known Jane since the first fitting 8 months ago, who taught her how to say hem allowance in Yoruba, is kneeling at Diana's feet, pins in hand. When she sees Jane in the doorway, she freezes. Diana turns. And then the venue coordinator, new, oblivious, clipboard in hand, says brightly, "Oh, wonderful, you're here. We need the dress taken in about 2 centimeters on each side. The original measurements were a bit larger. Could you assist?" The room goes very still. 2 centimeters. Jane is 2 centimeters bigger than the woman wearing her wedding dress. Think about that number, about how specific it is, about how that specific number will visit Jane in the middle of the night for weeks afterward. Auntie Grace says very quietly, "I can do the alterations myself, sir." The coordinator does not hear. He is already consulting his clipboard. Diana, barely audible, says, "Jane, Os, you don't have to do this." Jane says, "No, I know." And she walks across the room. She kneels at the hem of the dress that was made for her, and she picks up a pin. Her hands do not shake. That is the part that surprises her most. Maya is waiting outside. She stayed out because she knew that if she went in, she would say something that would get both of them removed from the premises. And Jane would never forgive her for making a scene at her own venue. When Jane comes out, Maya opens her arms. Jane walks into them. And in the parking lot of the venue she booked for her own wedding on a Tuesday afternoon, Jane lets go of the composure she has been carrying since yesterday morning. She cries in a way she has never cried before. Not pretty, not quiet, the kind that sounds almost like anger, and the kind that comes from somewhere so deep it surprises even the person feeling it. Maya holds her and says nothing. There is nothing to say. When it stops, Jane steps back, wipes her face with the back of her hand. "I'm going to do it. The clinic. The memory thing." Maya starts to argue. Jane says, "I am not going to spend the rest of my life carrying him. I built something beautiful, and he handed it to someone else, and I refuse. I refuse to let that be the thing that defines me. I refuse to mourn this forever. Maya asks quietly, "And if you forget him, what if you also forget what you loved about him? What it felt like to be loved back?" Jane is quiet for a moment. "Then I'll find out what I feel like without all of that." Maybe that's better. She does not mean to end up across the street from the estate. She tells herself she is just in the neighborhood. She tells herself a lot of things, but there she is, standing behind a tree, watching through the wrought iron gate as the guests file in. People she knows, people who were coming to her wedding. Through the garden window, a flash of white, a shadow of movement, and then, faint across the distance, the beginning of a wedding march. Jane closes her eyes. When she opens them, she takes out her phone. She finds the booking form for tabula rasa. She fills it in. Name, Jane Adeyemi. Date of birth, contact number. And in the field that asks, "Who would you like to forget?" she types one name. She presses submit. The confirmation email arrives 17 seconds later. Your first session is scheduled for this Friday. Please arrive rested. And please bring nothing you are not prepared to leave behind. She reads it twice. Then she puts her phone in her pocket and walks away from the estate with the ivy walls and the white roses. She does not look back, and in the garden, behind the wrought iron gate, without a single person knowing she was ever there. The wedding continues. She wakes up after the first session and tries to remember their first date. It is there, but blurry, like a photograph left in the rain. She smiles, then goes still, then smiles again. She is not sure which feeling is more frightening. Tomorrow, she finds out what is in the dress, and she finds out something about Diana that changes everything. They used her dress, her venue, her flowers, but nobody told her what Diana left inside the gown. Yesterday, our Jane submitted a form to a memory clinic to erase the man she loved from her mind. Today, she's still waiting for her first appointment. And in the meantime, because life has a spectacular sense of the dramatic, the venue calls. There is something in the dress. This one is going to hurt in a very specific way. Stay with me. There is a particular kind of exhaustion that does not come from a sleepless night, but from a night where the body shuts down, everything it can't process. Jane wakes up at 6:47 a.m. and for exactly 11 seconds, everything feels fine. Then she remembers. She makes coffee. She waters her plants. She checks her work email. 17 unread messages, mostly vendors wanting to know what happened to the Saturday wedding. She does not reply to any of them. She calls her mother. Her mother does not ask how she is, and she says she can hear it in her voice. The voice where Jane is holding everything together by her fingernails, and if she is pushed even slightly, everything falls. She says she will not push. She just wants Jane to eat something, and she will come on Friday. Jane says she has an appointment on Friday. Her mother says to cancel it. Jane says quietly, "I can't." She does not explain what kind of appointment it is. Not yet. At 9:30, an unknown number calls. A coordinator from the venue, Michael, says they found personal items left in Jane's original dress bag before the handover. Photographs, a small journal, pressed flowers. Jane says she will come collect them. And then Michael adds, apologetically, carefully, that the new bride found something in the gown after the ceremony. Something she did not notice until it was over, and she asked that it be passed along to Jane. To me, why would she? There was a note, Michael says, sewn into the inner lining of the bodice, in Jane's handwriting, and that stops her mid-breath. Because 8 months ago, at the second fitting, Jane had a moment alone with the dress. This is something she does with every wedding she plans. She writes a small note and tucks it somewhere inside the gown. A love letter, a tradition she invented for herself. A message from the person planning to the person wearing. She forgot she had done it. In all the chaos of the last 48 hours, she forgot that somewhere inside the bodice of the wedding dress that Diana wore, there is a note that Jane wrote to the woman she thought she was going to become. She drives to the venue. Michael meets her at the gate with a small box, her photographs, or her journal, the pressed flowers from the first time Hector brought her to this place, and a plain white envelope. Her own handwriting on the front. To the woman wearing this dress on the day that matters most. She drives home before she opens it. She needs to be inside, with the doors locked, sitting down, before she reads her own words back to herself. She makes tea she does not drink. She sits at the kitchen table. She opens the envelope. The note says this: "You made it. You got here. And I want you to know, before you take this first step, that it was worth it. Every early morning when he didn't text back fast enough, every fight that felt like the end, every moment you wondered if this was really the right person. It led here, to this dress, to this day, to someone who chose you, who keeps choosing you. I hope the ceremony is more beautiful than you imagined. I hope when you look at him, he looks back at you like you're the only person in the room. I hope you dance until your feet hurt. I hope the flowers smell the way you wanted them to. I hope this day is everything. Be happy. You deserve to be happy. We both do." She wrote it to herself, to the version of herself she thought she was becoming. Instead, Diana read it, and then Diana kept it, and then Diana sent it back. Why? There is something else in the envelope. A folded piece of paper, a phone number, and 2 lines, in Diana's handwriting. "I listened to your voice note from the coordinator. I think you deserve to hear this from me directly. You don't have to call, but you can." Jane does not call. She texts. "Why did you send it back?" 3 dots. Then, "Because it wasn't mine to keep. It was written for you." Even if you can't have the day you planned, the words are still true. Jane writes back, "That's very easy for you to say from inside my wedding." Diana replies, "I know. I'm sorry, Jane. That will probably never feel like enough." Jane puts her phone face down on the table. She picks up the letter. She reads it again. "Here is the question I need you to sit with right now. Is Diana a villain?" She came back knowing Hector was engaged. She made her wish knowing what it would cost. She wore the dress, walked the aisle, said the vows. But she also sent back the note. She said, "I know," and "I'm sorry," when she did not have to say anything at all. Hold that question. By episode 3, you will have a completely different answer than you have right now. Jane's first appointment at Tabula Rasa is not what she expected. She expected chrome and fluorescent lights and a clipboard questionnaire. Instead, it is a converted townhouse. Wood floors, bookshelves, a waiting room that smells faintly of cedar. The receptionist offers her tea. The doctor is Dr. Song. 50-something, Korean-British, precise in her speech in a way that makes Jane feel, immediately, like she is in exactly the right place. Dr. Song is clear about what the process does and what it does not do. They are not removing memories, they are reducing the emotional charge attached to them. She describes it this way: imagine a filing cabinet. The folders are still there, the dates, the conversations, the facts. But the feelings attached to them are quieted, like turning down the volume on a song that has been playing too loud. Jane asks what happens if she changes her mind. "Doctor?" Song tells her she can stop through day 5. After that, the changes become more permanent. Days 6 and 7 complete the process. Then Dr. Song asks one more question. "Not for the records," she says, "for Jane herself. Are you doing this because you want to heal, or because you want to punish him?" Jane is quiet for a long time. I don't think those are mutually exclusive. Dr. Song nods slowly. No, they're not. Let's begin. She lies in a reclined chair that feels like a cloud. Small electrode stickers at her temples and behind her ears. Dr. Song tells her to close her eyes and think about him. And here is the strange thing about being told to deliberately think about the person you are trying to forget. It feels almost like permission. For 3 days, she has been clamping down on every thought. And now, in this quiet room, she's being told, go ahead, remember. So she does. She remembers the first morning she woke up in his apartment and found him making tea, singing something under his breath. Not a real song, just a melody he was inventing as he went. She remembers how he drummed her knuckles lightly with his thumb when he held her hand in traffic. She remembers the afternoon he got lost in a supermarket for 20 minutes, reading the back of a cereal box. And when she found him, he was completely unembarrassed and said only, "Did you know they put minerals in this?" She remembers all of it. And then, very slowly, like a tide going out, she feels the memories begin to loosen their grip. Not disappear, just soften, like photographs that have been in the sun too long. When she comes out of the session, the receptionist brings tea. Jane drinks it. "How are you feeling?" "Different," Jane says. "Not better or worse, just different." She goes home and sleeps for 11 hours. In her dreams, she sees a man whose face she cannot quite make out. She wakes up. She tries to recall his face. It is there, but it takes a moment longer to arrive than it used to. She is not sure whether to be relieved or terrified. Maya does not support this plan. She has communicated this clearly across multiple platforms, including a voice note that ran 6.5 minutes long. She comes over anyway. She asks how it was. Jane says it felt like falling asleep properly for the first time in days. Maya says she researched the clinic. It is real. It is legal. But there are people who say that afterward, they lost more than just the person. They lost the feeling of having been loved at all, or they felt hollowed out. Jane says, or they felt free. Maya says, you don't know which one you'll be. Jane says, no, but I know which one I feel like right now. And I know what I felt like before. And right now is better. Then Maya asks the question neither of them wants to answer. What if he comes back? What if he realizes he made a mistake? Jane is quiet. Then it'll be too late, and that will be his problem, not mine. Meanwhile, across the city, Hector is on his honeymoon. He is in a hotel. Diana is asleep. He is sitting on a balcony at 11 p.m., scrolling through his phone, and at some point his thumb lands on Jane's contact. Her photo still there. Her number still there. He does not call, but he does not move either. The next morning he goes to her apartment. He has something to say. He does not know what exactly, but something. Her neighbor tells him she moved out 3 days ago. A sublease notice is on the door. He calls Maya. Maya, cold, tells him Jane is choosing to be free. That is all he needs to know. He stands in the empty hallway for a very long time. Then he goes back to his wife. And in a hotel room across the city, Diana wakes up alone. She stares at the ceiling. She pulls up a contact she has not called in months. She hesitates. Then she calls. A woman answers. Diana says very quietly, "It's me. We need to talk about what I did." Tomorrow, the truth about Diana comes out, and it is so much worse and so much sadder than you think. Diana has a secret, and when it comes out, you will not feel sorry for Hector anymore. Today is the day the truth about Diana comes out. Not the version she told Hector. Not the version that made everything sound like a tragedy. The actual truth. By the end of this episode, you will not know who to root for. You will be angry at everyone, including Hector, especially Hector. And somehow, in the middle of all of that, you will understand a little more about why Jane is doing what she is doing. Day 3, Jane's second session. Dr. Song has noticed something she describes as positive engagement. Jane is not resisting the process. Most patients have to be coached through the difficult memories. Jane goes toward them voluntarily. Dr. Song asks her what she is seeing. Jane describes a trip to Ibadan, his cousin's wedding. They got on the wrong bus and ended up somewhere neither of them recognized and walked for 2 hours eating suya from a roadside stall. And Hector kept saying, "I'm handling this," even though it was very clear he was not handling this. Dr. Song asks how that memory feels. Jane pauses, warm and sad, both at the same time. Dr. Song says that is normal. The warmth fades last. It is the one people hold on to longest. Jane says she does not want to lose the warmth. She just wants to lose the part that hurts when she remembers it. Dr. Song tells her the warmth and the pain often come from the same root. Removing one tends to affect the other. Jane is quiet for a moment. Do it anyway. While Jane is in her second session, Maya is doing something she has not told Jane about. She has found Diana. Not at the hotel. That took 3 phone calls and 1 mildly deceptive conversation with a front desk clerk. At the hotel coffee shop. Alone. 9 a.m. Looking tired in the specific way of someone who has been winning and feels nothing about it. Maya sits down across from her without being invited. She says she wants the truth, not what Diana told Hector, the actual truth. Diana asks who she is. Maya says she is the person who held Jane in a parking lot while she cried for 40 minutes. She thinks she has earned this conversation. Diana looks at her for a long time. Then she orders a second coffee and tells Maya to sit down properly. Maya asks, "Do you love him?" Diana says she loved him. A long time ago. Maya says that is not what she asked. Diana is quiet for a moment. Then, "No. Right now, no. I don't think I do. Not the way she does, the way she did." Maya asks, "Then why?" Diana wraps both hands around her coffee mug. She looks at the table. She heard he was getting married, and someone from their old circle sent her the engagement announcement. And she thought she needed to know. She needed to know if he was really over her, if he had really moved on. If someone else had gotten the version of him that she stops. Maya asks, "The version of him that she, what?" Diana says quietly, "The version that I broke. When we were together, I was not good to him. I left badly, very badly, and I spent years wondering if I had damaged something in him, if he could still love someone after me." Maya says, "So you came back to check?" Diana says, "I came back to see if he'd forgotten about me." A silence settles over the table. Maya says, "And he hadn't." Diana says, "He hadn't. He walked away from his wedding for me. For a test, I never even told him I was running. And I stood there watching him do it, and I thought." Maya asks what she thought. Diana says, bitter, directed entirely at herself, "I thought, you idiot. You wonderful, terrible idiot. Why are you still this person?" Maya asks directly. "Is the cancer real?" Diana does not answer immediately. She turns her coffee cup in her hands. She looks out the window. She looks like someone doing a calculation. How much to give? How much to hold back? Then she says, "Yes, the cancer is real." Maya asks, "Are you dying?" Diana says she was told 8 months ago there was a significant chance she would not see next year. Her most recent scan, last month, was better than they expected. Maya says, "So you might be fine." Diana says she might be in remission. The doctors used the word encouraging. Maya asks about Hector. Diana says he does not know about the latest scan. She told him when she had the bad news. She has not yet found a way to tell him the update. Maya stares at her. You're telling me that you walked into his life, broke up his engagement, married him, and you might be fine, Diana says quietly. I know how that sounds. Maya asks, does it sound true? Yes. Does it sound like something you're ashamed of? A long pause. Yes, deeply. I need to pause here, because this is the moment where Diana becomes complicated. She is not a cartoon villain. She did not set out to destroy Jane. She set out, in the most self-centered, human, completely understandable way, to answer a question that was eating her alive. She loved Hector once. She hurt him. She spent years wondering if she had broken something in him. And when she found out he had healed enough to love someone else completely, she wanted to see it up close. She wanted to know if she was truly over. The cancer was real. The crisis was real. The wish felt real in the moment. But the love she was not so sure about. And in the wreckage of that uncertainty, Jane lost her wedding. Maya leaves the coffee shop and calls Jane immediately. 4 rings. Voicemail. She calls again. Voicemail. She calls the clinic. The receptionist tells her she cannot interrupt an active session. Patient confidentiality. Maya hangs up. She sits in her car. Then she does something she never does. She calls Hector. He answers, surprised. She tells him she needs him to know 2 things. She's not telling him because she thinks it will fix anything. She is telling him because Jane is her best friend. There's 1. Diana confessed to testing him. The marriage was built, at least in part, on a need to know whether she still had power over him. Not a clean love, not a pure wish, a question that cost Jane everything. 2. Jane is at a memory clinic. She is voluntarily erasing him. She is on day 3. Hector is silent for so long that Maya says his name twice. She's doing what? Maya tells him it is real, it is legal, it is irreversible after day 5. Hector asks why she is telling him this. Maya says, because you did this, and you should know what it costs. Not to fix it. I'm not asking you to try to fix it. You're married. You made your choice. But you should know what your choice is costing the person who loved you most. She hangs up. Hector sits in the hotel room for a very long time. Diana comes back from the spa to find him at the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. She asks what is wrong. He looks up at her, and for the first time since she reappeared in his life, he looks at her like a stranger. He asks, why did you really come back? She knows immediately that something has shifted. He says, the real reason, Diana, not the version you told me, the reason you still haven't managed to say out loud. She asks how he knows. He says, I know, tell me anyway. What Diana tells her husband in that hotel room is everything she told Maya, minus nothing. The test. The question she needed answered. The way she watched him throw away his entire future just to prove she still held a piece of him, and felt not love, not even satisfaction, just the familiar, terrible confirmation that she had not lost her grip. And then the update she never shared. The scan. The word encouraging. The probability that she will live. Hector listens to all of it without interrupting. When she finishes, the silence in the room is complete. What have I done? It is not a question directed at Diana. It is the sound of a man comprehending the full weight of a decision for the very first time. Diana starts to apologize. He tells her to stop. He needs to sit with this. He goes to the window. He looks out at the city, and he thinks about Jane in the fitting room, pinning the hem of her own wedding dress onto a woman who did not love the groom. He thinks about the note in the lining. He thinks about Diana, who carried a secret that could have ended all of this before it started. He thinks about the fact that he has been married for 3 days. He thinks about Jane, She's somewhere in a clinic, forgetting him on purpose. I have to make it up to her. I have to win her back. Diana reminds him he is married. He says he knows. He is not saying he is leaving. He is saying he needs Jane to know. He needs to explain. Diana says, "She's erasing you, Hector. After day 5, it's permanent. She doesn't want an explanation." He turns around, and Diana, who came back to find out if she still had power over this man, sees something in his face that answers her question once and for all. The answer is no. She lost it. The moment she put on the dress, she lost it. Jane comes out of her 3rd session at 4 p.m. She sits in the clinic's small courtyard, a stone bench, a fig tree, high walls, and she tries to think about Hector. The shape of him is still there. She can describe him. Tall, precise hands, and the way he laughed with his whole body, the habit of reading cereal boxes. The facts are all intact. But when she reaches for the feeling, the particular weight of loving him specifically, the certainty that he was the right person, it is like reaching for something in the dark and finding the shelf empty. The memory is there. The love is going. She breathes, long, slow, deliberate. And then she does something she has not done in 4 days. She laughs, not at anything in particular, not because anything is funny, just because, in this moment, in this garden, with her grief going quiet, she feels like herself again, the version of herself that exists without reference to anyone else. She is still her. She is still here. Hector calls the clinic. They tell him a patient's information is confidential, but visiting hours are open. He looks up the address. He is 2 days from the irreversible threshold. He does not know that yet. He is about to find out. Tomorrow, the memory goes quiet. Hector comes running, and Jane wakes up on day 4, not quite knowing who she is anymore. He found the clinic. She is on day 4. He has 24 hours before it becomes permanent. This is the one that hurts. Halfway, 4 days in, 3 sessions down. Jane has crossed the midpoint of the process, and right now, in a way that is equal parts terrifying and freeing, the feelings are going quiet. Meanwhile, Hector has found the name of the clinic. He has not called it yet. He has not gone. He's sitting in his hotel room on the 4th morning of his honeymoon, trying to decide whether what he is feeling is love or guilt, or the specific panic of a man who only understands what he had once he has given it away. Today, he decides. Jane wakes up on day 4, and the first thing she notices is the absence. Not a painful absence, not a hollow one, more like the way you feel the day after a fever breaks. Lighter than you expected, unsure for a moment whether you have been cured or whether you have simply lost something you did not yet know you needed. She makes coffee. She opens the window. She stands in the light for a while. She tries, deliberately, as she has been doing each morning as a kind of test, to bring his face to mind. It comes, but more slowly than before, like a word you know but cannot find immediately, and she has to reach for it, and when it arrives, it is correct but distant. A photograph of a person rather than the person themselves. She gets dressed. She eats breakfast. She goes for a walk. It is the first time in 4 days she has done any of these things without thinking about him. She stops at a street corner and realizes she has been humming. She does not know when she started. Hector has a list. It started as notes in his phone. Things he would say to Jane if he could. Things he should have said before. It has grown into something longer and more desperate. He has been writing it and deleting it and rewriting it, and none of it sounds right, because none of it is right. There is no combination of words that makes what happened okay. Diana finds him at the desk, his jaw tight, and doing the face she recognizes from 5 years ago. The face he makes when he has made a decision he knows is going to cost him. You're going to go to her. He does not look up. He says he needs to see Jane. He needs her to know that he... Diana cuts in. She reminds him he is married, to her, for better or worse. So what exactly is he planning to do? Go to the clinic and say what? He says he wants to apologize, to tell her what happened was... Diana says, she's erasing you. She doesn't want your apology. She is literally and medically removing you from her heart. She has made her choice. He says he knows, but she made it without knowing the truth. Diana asks quietly, "You think the truth will bring her back?" A long pause. "No, I don't think anything will bring her back, but she deserves to know why it happened. Or she deserves to understand it wasn't because he didn't love her. She deserves to walk away with the full picture." Diana is quiet. She sits on the edge of the bed. She looks at her hands. You love her. It is not a question. He tells her not to ask him that. She says, "You love her, and you married me, and you know exactly how this ends." He picks up his jacket. "I don't know how anything ends. I only know I can't sit here and let her disappear without saying anything." He goes. Tabula rasa is not difficult to find. A small brass plate outside, a gate that opens automatically, a receptionist who is extremely kind and extremely firm. She tells him they do not accept unscheduled visitors during active patient sessions. He says he is not a visitor. He needs to speak to a patient, Jane Adeyemi. The receptionist tells him they can't confirm or deny patient enrollment. He can leave a message. He says, "Please." He drove 40 minutes. He just needs 5 minutes. 5 minutes. The receptionist looks at him with the practiced compassion of someone who has watched many people arrive at this clinic with exactly this kind of urgency. She tells him visiting hours are open in the garden between 3 and 5 p.m. for family members with prior approval. She can put him on the list for tomorrow. He says, "Tomorrow is too late." And then, through the glass door separating reception from the corridor, he sees her. Jane. She's coming out of a session room with Dr. Song beside her, and she looks different. Not worse, not sad. Lighter somehow. Cleaner. Like something has been put down that she no longer needs to carry. He stands up. He calls her name through the glass. She hears it. She stops. She looks at the person on the other side of the door. Her expression does not change. Dr. Song opens the door. She asks him to lower his voice. He says, "Jane, Jane, it's me. It's Hector." Jane looks at him with an expression he has never seen on her face before. It is not anger. It is not hurt. It is the expression of someone trying to place a person they have almost but not quite met. "I know who you are." She says it flatly, factually, like confirming a piece of information. He asks if they can talk. Just a few minutes. She turns to Dr. Song and asks, "Do I have to?" Dr. Song says, "Of course not." Jane looks at Hector again. She tilts her head slightly, measuring the distance between who he is and what he means to her now. 5 minutes. In the garden. They sit on opposite ends of the stone bench. The fig tree drops one leaf. Neither of them looks at the other immediately. He asks how she is feeling. She says, "Different." He asks, "Different how?" She says, "Quieter." He nods. He does not know what to do with that. He says he came to tell her something. He does not expect anything from it. He just thinks she deserved to hear it from him. He tells her about Diana, about what she confessed, that she did not come back because she loved him. She came back to test him, to see if she still had a hold on him. Jane says quietly, "Carrying her." He says yes. She says, "And you were." He says, with pain, "Yes." A silence. She asks why he is telling her this. He says, because she made a decision without the full picture. He does not want her to think what they had was not real. He does not want her to believe he did not love her. She says, I know you loved me. He asks, then why is she doing this? She looks at him, and this is the moment he sees it clearly. The distance in her eyes. Not coldness, not hatred, something more final than either of those. A kindness that has no more use for him. Because knowing you loved me isn't enough. It wasn't enough to keep the wedding. It's not enough to undo what the last 2 weeks felt like. And I'd rather carry nothing than carry something that almost happened. He has no answer to that. He asks, is there anything he can do? She stands, you can let me go. That's all I'm asking. Let me go and don't come back. Whatever I remember of you after this, let it be quiet. He stands too. They are very close, close enough that he could reach out. He does not. Okay. She says, thank you for coming. She goes back inside. He stands in the garden alone for a long time. The fig tree drops another leaf. After Hector leaves, Dr. Song finds Jane in the courtyard. She asks if Jane is all right. Jane says yes. Dr. Song asks how it felt, seeing him in person at this stage of the process. Jane thinks about it honestly. Strange, like recognizing a word in a language you use to speak fluently and realizing you have to translate it now. Dr. Song asks if it made her want to stop. Jane says no. Dr. Song asks if it made her feel anything. Jane pauses, sad, a little, for him more than for me. Dr. Song nods slowly. Then she tells Jane where they are, past the midpoint. Sessions 5 through 7 complete the primary process. After session 5, the changes become stable. Reversing them would require significant re-engagement with the source memories. Are you certain you want to continue? I'm certain. Dr. Song says, then they go forward. Jane nods. She looks up at the fig tree. Dr. Song, do people ever regret it? A pause. Dr. Song says some do. Some feel empty afterward. Some feel free. The ones who regret it are usually the ones who came angry. The ones who are free are usually the ones who came ready. Jane asks, which one am I? Dr. Song says, honestly, I think you came both, but you've been letting go of the anger since day 2. What's left now is mostly the readiness. Hector sits in his car outside the clinic for 40 minutes. He calls Diana. She does not answer. He calls Maya. Maya asks why he is calling her. He says he went to see Jane. She asks how it went. He says she said to let her go. Maya says, so let her go, Hector. He says he does not know how. Maya says, she's learning, you should too. She hangs up. Meanwhile, in her room at the clinic, Jane is asleep. Her phone buzzes once, a message from her mother asking how the appointment went. She does not wake to read it, but her face, in sleep, is calm. No tension, no grief, just rest. The memory is at 48%. Tomorrow, session 5. After tomorrow, it can't be undone. Hector finds a business card in his jacket pocket. The clinic's address. On the back, in Dr. Song's handwriting. Visiting hours end after day 5. He stares at it. He checks the clock. 9 p.m. He has 15 hours. Tomorrow, the irreversible threshold. He comes back. She wakes up. And this time, she really does not know who he is. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell. Part 2 coming next.